I think these are good pointers. And in fact, if you see most of the organizations who are not working so much on the digital side have started moving to digital because of the ease in working and because of the current pandemic. And an increase of cybercrime and data breaches continues to pose major problems with the organizations in today's digital world. If you look into the adversaries, they create service disruptions, they create attacks, and penetrate the traditional defense mechanism. This brings us to our next area of discussion. And as earlier, I would request you all to take another poll. So, team, if you can display the polls. Thanks. And the questions we'd like to have is, what is the range of average breakout time for an intruder to begin moving lately to other systems in the network? And the options are hours, days, weeks, and months. The second question is, what's the average dwell time of a threat in a corporate environment? It signifies the amount of time in days threat actors goes undetected in the environment. We'll hold for 30 seconds for your responses, and team, if you can display the results the moment everybody has responded. Thanks, team, for the results. And as expected, everybody mentioned about the hours. Yes, as per the Crowdstrike global threat reports for 2020 as well, the average breakout time for the intruder for being moving to other systems is network is around 8-9 hours. And on the second point, the average dwell time, as per the study, the average dwell time is considered to be around 95 days. So again, these are there is no right or wrong question, but this is what the typical studies are around these areas. Thanks again. Thank you for all once again for responses, and this brings us to our next point of discussion, which is how organizations are identifying adversaries in the cyber security landscape, and how fast are they responding? What are the different proactive strategies which can help organizations in controlling or stopping the attacks before it happens? So if anybody would like to take this up. Mr. Kiran, would you like to take this up?
Yeah, I can do that. Thanks, everyone.
Sure.
So basically, I would like to add on mainly on the identification of the threats within the organization. I think nowadays, I don't know how many will have the SOC systems in place in the systems before COVID. So I think the importance of the SOC teams should be taken care during after this COVID, because we don't, most of the organization doesn't have any 24/7 team for monitoring all the logs from different various sources like firewalls or antivirus or endpoints, because most of the employees are working from home. So earlier we used to have everyone is working from most of the users might be having desktops and all. So now everyone is working from home. So there is no infrastructure in place to get the logs from the different various systems coming from outside the organization. So SOC team should play good role to monitor all the different areas, different logs from different systems. I would say SOC is one of the biggest thing need to be addressed within our niche, and the required tools, whatever, like say coming to the alien world, coming to the other tools like say SIM solutions, we should consider adopting those technology as well as the new vector of threats for identification of new vector of threats.
Thanks a lot, Kiran. I think very rightly put in. The SOC is one of the key areas, but again, if you see, it's more of a reactive one. Anybody else would like to have any views over it? Mr. Suresh, if you would like to take this up.
No, I'll pass this question.
Sure. Anybody else who would like to take this up? So I think we all being from the cyber. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So I think I don't want to say much on this. Okay, on the proactive and reactive thing. Okay. I just thought, I'll just say this, that the proactive approach is based on the previous reactive approach. I hope you agree with me. So the data that gets built up for a proactive approach is based on a reactive step somewhere earlier. Okay. So I mean, just to give an example, like suppose I have a virus signature or a malware signature or something. It has got embedded into my data, onto my DAT files or whatever. I mean, I'm just taking a very simplistic example. It is based on some signature that is available earlier, which has got embedded into the DAT files for a proactive approach next time. So what I'm trying to say is that it's very difficult to have a proactive approach. Okay, and I mean, we may say it in English terms saying that it's a proactive approach, but actually it is more or less reactive every time. Okay, I would say that in the current scenario, we have to ensure that every user, everyone is made aware that just as we say that look before you leap, you have to say that look before you click. That's what we'll have to say. Okay, that's a more proactive approach than anything else.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, completely agree with you.
I agree with you, Prabhakar, on that. Actually, I mean, in a one sense, he told the proactive approach is self-aware. Actually, you need to be knowing what you are doing. That's the best way of preventing things, right? I mean, that you educate the user so that you have that proactiveness, even stop the security, I mean, stop the risk, even starting before that thing actually. And other than that, other one more point which I want to keep is knowing the IT what right now they are doing has have learned maybe using the technology having the patterns or machine learning kind of the data, making that into the networking monitoring. That may help one more proactive point other than the user education. Actually, user education must be first. I agree with you on that. But and other than that, proactively we can have the monitoring aspects where it has either through the patterns where we are having the previous signatures and mentioning that into the database, or having the learned by the industry, having the models machine learning models, keeping that there, can have these. We can prevent the threat proactively. Actually, this is my point.
Yeah.
No, that's great, Ashok, and I think that's a discussion in every forum which we have been attending of late regarding the proactive and the reactive controls in the organization, and which is really important for the organizations to pick on the speed. And this again is linked to one of our next polls, which is team. Can you display the next poll? And again, as we were discussing on the proactive and reactive approaches, so the question is, which of the following are proactive security strategies to stay ahead of the adversaries? And the options we have is incident data search and investigation, malware preventive using signatures, prevention using signatures, threat hunting or data exploration, alert triage or suspicious activities validation. So we again hold for 30 seconds for your responses. We can display the results and then we can go ahead with it. Team, if you can display the results the moment everybody has taken the poll.
We'll do that, Mr. Garg.
Thanks.
The results are displayed, sir.
Sure, thanks. And as you can see, alert triage or suspicious activity validation is the one which has got the maximum votes. But I think we have all of out of all of these four, the first, third, and the fourth, that's incidents, data search and investigation, threat hunting or data exploration, alert triage or suspicious activity validation. These all three are more of a proactive security strategies, and the malware prevention using signature is more of a reactive strategy. We all have been handling security functions for our organizations in one or other capacities, and this again would like to take to the next question, which is what are the different parameters which you feel impact organizations' ability to proactively strategize, secure, monitor, or respond with speed, and how you think these issues can be addressed? Anyone would like to take this question? Mr. Pradeep?
Yeah, hi guys, thanks.
Hi.
So yes, while each one of this is significant in terms of like how you approach the threats proactively, the threat hunting is a proactive approach where, before the organizations are impacted by any security incidents, we are going through our environment, we are going through our data and proactively looking into these activities before the organization would create any impact to your organization. So I think, yes, there are 29% vote for option C, threat hunting, and that's the correct one. While the other options, they are quite significant in terms of making your organization breach proof, but the option C is one which is a proactive approach to deal with that.
Sure, thanks. Anybody else would like to take that question? I'll just repeat the questions once again. What are the different parameters which you feel impact organizations' ability to proactively strategize, secure, monitor, respond with speed, and how you think these issues can be resolved? Satish, Vinu, Kiran, Suresh, Ashok. Yeah, please, Ashok, go ahead.
Just, iterating the point what you told, the issues, what I am we personally feel is the learning is happening even from the cyber attacker perspective also. Whenever we identify the threat and they are coming up with the new ways of doing things. Recently I have seen somewhere they have used a Google form to look like Microsoft sign-in form as such. I mean, they just changed the structure and provided that to the employees to to deceive the kind of has a sign-in page for the organizations. In that way, I think as even attackers are learning, that's the main problem. They are coming up with the new ways of attacking the things. They are targeting the devices, personal devices like tablets, children tablets, and other things to getting into the lateral networks actually, and getting into the organizations. So they're learning. I mean, they are coming up with the new ways. That is the issues. One thing, and other than that, now because our infrastructure and previously have a lot of backing, a lot of investment needs to happen. But recently, due to the infrastructure coming up to everyone, it is getting in hands of everyone. Now even the attacks are getting cheaper, or it is getting more democratized actually. So these are kind of issues where any attacker can have the infrastructure to attack even big organizations. And other than that, being personal devices and using for the remote working, this is one more point which is getting the more issues for organizations thing. And I agree with you, previously when they said threat hunting and ethical hacking, this can be one of the proactive approach, because when as the attacker learns about the new ways of attacking, ethical hacking will help you to understand that what are the new ways, because always understanding the previous things and working on the previous things it was more of reactive approach, but ethical hacking kind of approach will help you to think like what the attackers, how they will find the new ways. Also, I also agree with that threat hacking or ethical hacking is the proactive way to find out that risk to reduce the risk.
Hey, Vikas, if I may share my feedback. Sorry, I was trying to speak and I was on mute. Excellent insights and feedback from Ashok and the other panelists. One thing on, from my experience, how organizations can be proactive, to identify and detect adversaries. It's pretty much things that we hear day in, day out, right? To be able to collaborate technology, process, and skills, which is the human skills. If organizations can tie each of these together very tightly and have a plan set for cybersecurity, I think that's the best way. And look at our importance of speed in cybersecurity. Organizations could do things much faster when these three are working in tandem. Just wanted to share that feedback.
No, I think that's a really good point, Satish. And as we all talk, the three factors of people, process, technologies, I think these are all equally important. I think we need to work on how to enhance our cyber defense by using the new technologies, automate a lot of things, and by the new innovations. As Ashok rightly mentioned, there are new technologies which keeps on coming. People will keep on pushing hard, pushing really fast, and there has to be a lot of automations and innovations which needs to be done to meet up the speed requirements of the adversaries. So let's look at.
You allowed me to make one point. This is Vinu here.
Yeah, Vinu.
Yeah. See, one of the very important aspect which we have been observing, yes, one is in terms of providing all those technologies which is relevant to be proactive. The other important aspect is in terms of having the user education, because that is very important today in terms of adopting the technology, because we feel that everything starts at the user level, at whatever we call endpoint or device or any of these edge devices. So it's very important that users who is using that endpoint should be educated with right cybersecurity discipline, and education is very, very important.
No, absolutely right, Venu. And in fact, their awareness is one of the key pointers out there. And if I may add up, the 4 pointers which typically we talked about is the first is a top management intent. The top management has to be really ready to invest money in the cyber. The organization readiness, maybe because by having the policies, procedures in place, a lot of automations in place. Awareness is obviously one of the key parameters, as you rightly mentioned, and the practicing on all these, the readiness part, the policies, procedures, and how the firm would like to come up from the adverse time or the disaster time. These are the primary 4 parameters which we think are most critical. I think with this, we all understand the importance of all these 4 areas, and let's look at the new another poll. Team, if you can bring the next poll. So if you all can see on the right side, the next poll is, in order to detect known and unknown attacks faster, NGAV, that's the next generation antivirus, replaces malware signature database with which of the following? The options are SOC team, which is the Security Operations Center team. We have the machine learning, vulnerability database, and the application blacklist. We'll hold for 30 seconds for your responses. That's great. I think we have poll results, and machine learning, as we all know, is the one which is replacing malware signature database in the next generation antiviruses. And this brings us to our next question on how you think organizations can leverage new technologies to enhance their capabilities for faster detection and responses. Anybody would like to take this up? Mr. Venkat, if you would like to take this up.
Hello, am I audible? Hello. Am I audible?
No, Mr. Venkat, I think your voice is too feeble. If you can speak a bit louder.
Yeah, am I audible now? Yeah.
It's slightly better, I think.
Slightly better, but still we can't hear very clearly.
So I have actually logged in through my laptop, so I have some problems with my laptop.
Please speak.
I'm sorry, Mr. Venkat, we are not able to hear you out.
Oh, fine. I'll just fix it. Just bear with me.
Sure. Mr. Ramesh, if you'd like to take this question.
You're on mute.
Mr. Ramesh, I think you are speaking on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you clearly, Mr. Ramesh now. Thanks a lot.
Earlier, I was having some network issues. I could not connect. Anyway, good point to reach out, start conversation. Yeah, ML models is one right now what we are adopting, and we are seeing that we can definitely see some our user patterns, and identify the various user level patterns, patterns. How is that our applications are being used, and is there any unusual activity? So that is where mostly it is really helping out. But this takes a lot of time, though. Every time you come out with a certain pattern, that itself is a little challenge. But once you make certain challenge with respect to both network level and application level and at infrastructure level, and again, especially at each user, sometimes it violates little privacy level thing, but still that is a ML makes a lot of identifying to SOC, especially, to identify the problem, possible attack.
That's a great insight, Mr. Ramesh. Anybody else would like to respond to this query?
I think the scale and volume of the vulnerabilities and the attacks necessitates the AI and the machine learning algorithms to help us identify these threats. Okay, I think necessity is the mother of innovation, and I think the scale and volume definitely necessitates it. Okay, there's no. I think there's no kind of a magic bullet or a silver bullet to solve these problems, but I think that's the only way that we have to look forward for neutralizing these kind of attacks, or at least giving us the insights to help us be proactive and prevent such kind of attacks. So definitely the need of the hour is for these kind of models.
That's great, Mr. Prabhakaran. Thanks for that. And we can't close our discussion without considering the threats related to the new normal that's work from home. And as we all know, criminals are going on spree to take advantage of the current situation. And we have been into multiple forums. And whenever we go to the organizations being from the consulting firm, one thing we always hear is that the number of attacks which have been happening on the organization have been increasing. What you feel are the cybersecurity challenges in light of the remote working environment that we are following, and which is still not 100% secure and reliable? So what do you feel are the cybersecurity challenges which the organizations are facing during this remote working environment.
I would like to respond to this in a
Please.
way. Okay, if you don't mind my continuous.
No, that's really helpful, and that's an interactive discussion which we are having. Thanks for taking this up.
So I think in the current scenario, just as the COVID-19 pandemic, okay, it's a kind of the virus has traveled, okay, with respect to the boundaries, okay. If you look at the timeline on Bing map, okay, of the COVID map, you can see slowly it started with few dots on the red dots uh, in China, and then slowly you see the complete world map is turned into red except for Antarctica and some other places. Okay, so if you look at the timeline, it's a good reflection of how the virus has traveled across, okay, during the last few months. I'm just trying to draw an analogy saying that the boundaries have got neutralized. Okay, so there are no boundaries. On the same lines, on the same analogy, the security boundaries for the organizations have also got, kind of extended, or rather, I mean, it's a psychological satisfaction that has got extended. Just 1 minute, please.
Yeah, sure.
One. So just as the COVID virus has traveled across boundaries, the organization boundaries also got neutralized, or rather, it has got extended. The perimeter is, we are only saying as psychological satisfaction that the perimeter is extended, but no one knows where is the perimeter. Okay.
That's right.
So I think the vulnerabilities have extended, the touch points or the endpoints. Okay, if someone can tell me, how many endpoints are there, it will be good. Okay, so as a user, okay, I use a laptop, I use a tablet, I use a mobile phone. So the number of endpoints is actually, it is increased, and you multiply with the number of employees, the number of endpoints are extended very many. So there's no point in actually attacking the endpoints or solving the endpoint because there's no end to it. Okay. So just as we are we are trying to safeguard ourselves by using a mask and face shield, etc. I think that's what we'll have to do for the organization database or the organization information assets. Okay, that's it from me.
Well, I think that's a very, very valid point. And in fact, we have been in discussions with a lot of firms about what are the different controls which they have been implementing. And the reply always has been whatever controls we implement, people working in work from home can always take a snap from the mobile and can go off, which will take out all your controls. And now a lot of firms we have seen are talking about the different new solutions where maybe they can have employees working in front of the security cameras, and the moment somebody picks up the mobile to take a snap, the application automatically gets logged off. So there are multiple solutions being discussed in the market on how basically to handle. None of them, I think, is materialized as of now, but there are discussions around different areas. Anybody else would like to take a hit on the question on how to? Mr. Ramesh, if you'd like to take this up as well.
Yeah, good point. Actually, the work from home started, everyone given a certain VPN connections and all that. Our infrastructure for many companies are VPN, it cannot hold that load. And originally we provided, every one of us provided certain number of collaboration tools. And even that cannot scale to that level, whatever we are expecting now with the entire organization. Originally, those are planned for certain load factor. And now entire organization came onto the collaborative environments. So people naturally chosen the other collaborative tools which are not hardened. They share entire employees, they share with a good intention though. They share the lot of files which are very carry a lot of sensitive data, and people share across, and as we learn every day, these people are using this. We are trying to harden day by day every aspect, and this is a great challenge. So now we are trying to put a more investments each one of those areas, and trying to harden each one of those one by one area, collaborative tools, VPNs, and as earlier pointed out, yes, now endpoints, doesn't make sense at all, and try to secure as much as your data and servers, applications. I think that makes more sense as of right now.
I completely acknowledge the point, and in fact, with the automations happening left and right, even the cars, automated cars being, using a lot of new technologies, I think the vulnerabilities, the issues stays out there as well. And thanks for your wonderful responses. And just to summarize the pointers we discussed, I think we all agree that when a sophisticated hackers target an organization, they move really, really fast. And the organizations, on the other hand, are not always equipped and ready to move at the speed of these attackers. In fact, the organizations needs to strategize and be prepared to move faster in order to combat this fast-moving cyber threats. And new technologies are there to help us bridge all these gaps. With this, I conclude the roundtable discussion. In case any one of you would like to give the last comments, happy to take that up.
Because I think one point that we actually missed out is about the cybersecurity policies. I mean to say, like the insurance and all those things, because that's something which is of late being taken on high priorities after this multiple incidents that are being happening. So I just wanted to understand I was in one of the call a couple of days back, and there was a lot of discussion on the cybersecurity policy. I think probably one measure is we are just hardening our particular hardwares and everything so that we don't get into attack. The other part of it, the financial impact of the thing, also should be taken into consideration. The measures should be taken by all the people in this panel discussion is what I feel, because we've seen a couple of things which had happened, not a big sizable incident, but we felt that cyber insurance is something of a point that we should discuss.
Yeah, I think taking a policy is a proactive approach, and claiming a policy is a reactive approach.
That's right. So anybody would like to take this up or have their viewpoints on these areas?
Prabhakar, one comment on this particular thing.
Yeah.
I would say that I have done it proactively now, but because of reactive measure, that it's become a proactive this time.
Yeah. Just on the lighter side, I said that.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
No, I think from the consulting point of view, what we have also seen in the market, people started asking for a lot of cyber insurance, which was not there earlier. And I think that's one of the key areas on how you can transfer the risk of the organization on the insurance firm. So if anybody would like to put their viewpoints further on this, we can take it ahead from it.
Yeah, so just one quick point. We've been seeing a lot of cyber the insurance as part of the. You would have heard me mention technology, process, and people working together. Process that I mentioned, but basically for organizations today, to consider cyber insurance, because it's really bad, and organizations may want to be prepared, proactive. I would use the keyword rather than getting into an issue and then scratching heads. Yeah, so something that I want to share. But I'll also be able to share something towards the end of the session. But that's something I wanted to share now.
It's a good point that Venkat has taken in terms of the cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in fact, a lot of these cybersecurity vendors are adding as part of the questionnaire is how many people are working from home now? What is the proportion of people who are working remotely? That's a question that they have added recently to the insurance assessments. It's a good point that has taken, yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
yes, because I recently have actually taken. So I remember all these points. There was a big questionnaire which was given, and the matter of risk element was actually taken into consideration. And based on that is the policies value is actually coming up and all this. But one quick thing that I would like to ask people here is that how do you assess that this is the right set of value for your policy? Because I just told them, just take about 20 million and we just closed it. But is a 20 million a right number, or is it just 5 million is sufficient, or is it going to be a number which is 100 million, which we'll have to consider? Can
So I think,
anybody throw light on this?
so Satish, yes, sir. So I think it's a very, very good question, and it's a very difficult one to take also. In my experience, I think the value basically depends on your brand reputation. What would be the impact or loss if there is an impact to that reputation, impact to the brand? Number one, what is your intellectual property today? Because what we have seen generally when organizations are looking at security, network, endpoint, whatever, cloud, right? During the time of investment, they only look at one aspect. I'm having this A today and I'm going to replace it with B. So this is the cost, and they compare, right? Ideally, that should not be the way of, and I strongly believe, and that's my thought. The way this should be looked at is when I replace A with B, I need to also consider how does it handle risk? How does it handle threats? What is the cost if I lose an IP or if there is a data exfiltration? All those are basically the cost that you need to consider before you choose or going for a replacement. So that's my feedback. So it's a very, very difficult one to put a value to what your insurance is. But then definitely there are, I think there are organizations who are doing or rather taking right steps to help you to get that state.
Just adding to what he's told, uh, one of the important point which a lot of customers do is in terms of the risk score. I think that is what Satish also was mentioning. I mean, can I arrive at what is my current state of cybersecurity, and can I arrive at a risk score in a scientific way? I mean, I will be able to get more details as when I will be able to connect. But we have kind of doing services in terms of helping the customers to arrive at that risk scores, and then what are the mitigations and going forward, which will give you, it is as good as we doing a health checkup on ourselves and then say, yeah, I'm fine, I'm with this kind of insurance value is fine. Yeah, it's very subjective, as Satish was saying. It's very subjective. It depends upon all those factors which is being mentioned things. But yeah, we'll be happy.
I think as rightly mentioned, it's really subjective. It's as similar as how much premium you want to pay for your personal health insurance, right? And
Exactly.
And as higher the value of the premium is, the higher the insurance value is. So it all depends on the appetite of the organization to handle the risk, which we just talked about the risk score. So from the risk we arrive at, these are the risks which the firm is having. These are the critical assets, and if something some impact happens on the specific assets, what is the financial appetite which the firm has, and what is the type of precautionary insurance which the firm wants to take. So I think it's very, very judgmental on how to take this up.
There's also a link with the RPO and RTO.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's correct. And because one point, I don't know, I joined a little bit late, but I was actually trying to understand, has there been a point on the privacy part of it? Because under the cybersecurity framework, the new thing that has actually come up and the NIST latest framework, you're also adding privacy into it.
So we haven't discussed specifically on the privacy, Mr. Venkat, and as you all rightly know, we have the data protection bill as well, which is in the parliament and which might come up into play maybe in the winter session. That will be very much applicable. We have discussed on the work from home scenario where a lot of controls are being put up, which might impact some of the privacy for the individuals, but we haven't, as a part of the today's forum and discussion, haven't gone in details of the privacy because that's not the core agenda which we have been discussing. We obviously can take that up and we can connect. I can connect with you offline, or the panelists can connect offline and can take this up.
Because one other point, because when we were speaking, I found one particular point. See, I have been seeing that as part of privacy, first thing is the data that is actually there itself. People do not know how to even segregate, whether it's personal data, whether it is all those things. And a sort of training that should be provided, anything that can help the end user to be more cautious than getting into an attack.
Yeah, that's right, Venkatakadu, that the classification of data on in terms of the sensitivity, because
Yes.
many people don't know, am I creating a sensitive document? What level of authority, how long, who? So there are, our customers are discussing to us on that line as well. How do you classify these documents? Because as a creator of the document, if I'm creating a document, it is me who is responsible for defining those parameters for the security of the document in conjunction with the guidelines which corporate has issued. So taking your point is very valid, and we have kind of seen that increasingly customers are doing it in a very pocket, but yeah, this is becoming very relevant with it.
And I think beyond the data classification, there are other parameters which we generally follow as a part of the privacy and end-to-end cycle, which includes our creation of the data flow charts, where we typically see what are the different areas from where the firm is collecting the data, where exactly it's being stored, how is it being processed. We also check, do the data discovery, because a lot of time the firms isn't even aware that which all places the data is being stored and how the privacy principles will get applied to it. Obviously, from the governance perspective, from the strategy perspective, all your policies on the data classification, IRM will come into picture. But I think the starting point, what we have done in most of the places is primarily focusing on the data flow charts to identify the areas of the flow and to identify where exactly the data is lying in the organization at the moment.
Thank you.
I think with this we are running over time. Thanks once again for all of you for your participation, and I'll now hand over the stage to Satish from Crowdstrike, who will be presenting Crowdstrike solution and how it can help in addressing some of the issues we just talked about. Over to you, Satish.
Hey, thanks, Vikas, and thank you all the panelists who contributed very insightful feedback. Thanks for moderating the session. Excellent viewpoints that we got. I'm just waiting for the team to make me as a presenter so I could start sharing my screen.
We're just sharing the presentation right with you,
Sure.
Mr. Satish. Just a minute.
Thank you. And to all the attendees, I would assure you that I'm not taking you through a lot of slides. I will really keep it crisp. Not got access to share content. Wait. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we've given it to you now.
I got it now. Thank you so much. And I hope all of you can see my screen.
It's visible, it's visible.
All right, thank you so much. And once again, thank you everyone for joining us today at 11. I think great insights, great feedback, great discussions. The next 5 to 7 minutes, I think the reason I'm saying 5 to 7 minutes is because initially we planned to do 10 minutes of my session, but then considering that we have on our schedule, I'll try to keep it pretty short and crisp. What I'll be doing in the next 5 to 7 minutes is take you through what CrowdStrike is, what are we doing to solve some of the challenges that we discussed or some of the challenges that organizations are facing today from the cybersecurity landscape, right? Quickly at a glance, CrowdStrike is an organization based out of California, Sunnyvale. The company was founded in 2011, founded by two gentlemen, George Kurtz and Dimitri. Both of them have been in the industry for 25 plus years, very experienced with endpoint security. The company went public last year, 2019, is a very, very well-funded organization and has validation and certification across various industry analysts, that you could see here, right? So that's a quick glance of what CrowdStrike is. It's no accident, while you look at the slide, right? I'm sure you will agree with me that it's no accident that some of the largest of the organizations in the world today have looked at CrowdStrike for an endpoint security solution, right? It cannot be an accident where 44 of the top 100 organizations in Fortune 100 choose CrowdStrike, right? Those are real numbers. We're talking about customers. If you go to our website, you can basically look at customer videos, testimonials at crowdstrike.com. Very specific to India, which will make real sense for all of us here, is both TCS and Wipro were early adopters of CrowdStrike in India. This was early last year, where they went with CrowdStrike across the enterprise, and this is across the globe, right? We're talking about hundred thousands of licenses that they got for all their endpoints, and this is something that I wanted to be communicating to all of you, right? Now that's from our side of it, right? Now you don't have to hear what we are saying, but then if you start hearing about what the industry analysts are talking about, you take Gartner, you take Forrester, IDC, they all validate CrowdStrike to be a leader when it comes to endpoint security. Now, be it those industry validation, the independent test agencies who have evaluated our endpoint security product, and they have given their feedback as well. The Gartner Peer Insights validation is very, very critical because today organizations are looking up to this report. And we are very proud to share this, that for both endpoint security and EDR, CrowdStrike has got the best score, which is 4.9 out of 5 in the latest Gartner Peer Insights report that got released in 2020. I just double clicked on very specific to Gartner, right? All of us understand endpoint security is a very, very crowded space. We have the antiviruses, we have the sandboxing solution providers and things like that, right? It's a very crowded place. And for CrowdStrike to be a leader, we need to really prove and we need to show why we are unique. What is that we do differently that we are able to stand apart and become a leader, right? And most of the discussions that we had, I think inputs that we got from Ashok, inputs we got from a couple of other panelists, I think it all revolves around this, right? We are doing something really different. And if you really look at Gartner's report, things that they have mentioned, Gartner clearly suggests that organizations that are looking at endpoint strategy, improving the endpoint security strategy, they must have this in place. 3 things. Look for solutions that are delivered from the cloud, because that's the only way where you can get things faster, right? We had discussions around, how we build network things in the network infrastructure within the data center, within the DR, but they are not able to cater to today's problems, right? Where users are spread across, each user having multiple devices, but they were not built for that, right? So Gartner clearly states that if security on the endpoint has to be the best, then look for cloud delivered solution. Look for a solution that does detection and response integrated with prevention. look for solution that adds as an extension to your SOC. SOC is very, very critical. And one of the panelists today mentioned that after the pandemic, organizations will wake up to this and start building SOC if they don't have one. And organizations who have a SOC will start looking at 24/7. And what we are talking, or what Gartner is talking about managed hunting here, is how organizations, how cybersecurity vendors can help SOC inside organizations as an extension. So Gartner clearly tells that these must be the preferred strategies for organizations to provide endpoint security, given the situation that we are in. These are two snapshots that I just picked up to give you a glimpse of how CrowdStrike is today, how CrowdStrike is placed in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant for endpoint security. This is the latest report from Gartner. You clearly see that we are a leader there. There is another snapshot on the right. This is again from Gartner, called the Gartner Critical Capabilities Report, which was also released in 2019, October 2019, which is also the latest. You would clearly see that Gartner had evaluated multiple endpoint security vendors, and they rated CrowdStrike to be the best in terms of what critical capabilities that we can provide to organizations when it comes to endpoint security, right? I will move on. Today's challenge, right? I will not dive too much into this. I think we had loads of discussions on this, excellent feedback were around, challenge that we are facing today. But one thing that I wanted to point out is it's not just, we as organizations who have to start thinking that we should be fast, we should be, really fast and be ahead. But then we all have to know that the adversaries, the hackers, the nation-sponsored attackers, they are really, really fast. There was one point that I heard, if I'm not wrong, it was Ashok, who mentioned that they are adopting latest of technologies today to be able to, evade security that is in place in organizations, right? That's exactly right. What you see on the screen are basically some of the fastest adversaries in the world today. The research is basically done by CrowdStrike services team, the incident response team, where we have seen that the Russians have been the fastest today. And when it comes to a cyber attack, they can actually start doing lateral entry within 18 minutes of initial access. The time they actually get an initial access to an endpoint, from there on, about 19 minutes is what they need to start moving multiple endpoints in a given network. So that's what I wanted to show from the slide, basically the speed at which the adversaries are working. The names that you see here are basically the code names. Basically, they kind of reflect individual states that are working on attacks. Now, Bear could be Russians, Kolima is North Koreans, Panda is Chinese, Kitten is Iran. So, within CrowdStrike, we track adversaries. As on date, we are tracking about 140 different adversaries, and that's the time in minutes or hours, right? 18 minutes, 2 hours, 20. This is how we believe that these individual adversaries can start moving laterally within organizations. The other challenge is malware. Having a endpoint security focused on blocking malware, is that enough? Is that sufficient? Absolutely not. What we have seen is almost 60% of the attacks, and this is the data that I'm showing is based on our threat report, which we released in April this year, based on the data that we observed in 2019. What we have seen is, and this is a global data, right? What we have seen is almost 60% of attacks that happened on organizations are basically non-malware attacks. And these are attacks that are not based on a file download, right? It could be fileless, it could be a phishing attack, it could be a social engineering attack, it could be a credential dumping attack, a lot of other attacks, right? So it becomes very, very critical for organizations to not just focus on malware prevention at network or endpoint, but also focus on the broader approach to think what you should be doing to stop breaches rather than just the malware. I'm not saying that don't focus on malware. Malware prevention is critical. However, organizations have to start focusing on how do you prevent non-malware attacks. Now, that's where I want to come and tell you what we do, right, at CrowdStrike. At CrowdStrike, we focus on both malware and non-malware. And how do we do this, right? At CrowdStrike, speed really, really matters, right? I think that's the only way where we can stay ahead of the adversary. Now, what I'm showing you in front of the screen is basically the MITRE attack phases, basically the different phases of an attack, and as per MITRE labs. There is something called breakout time. Now, basically the time it takes for an adversary to get initial foothold into an environment, and then from there up to the time when they can start moving laterally. That's the stage 8. Now, when we are talking about malware prevention, it is just the initial access. Now, all of us will agree now that there is no technology today which can do 100% prevention, right? No doubts. I will clearly tell that there is no technology that's there today to have 100% prevention. And that's where technology, process, and people or skill that has to work together really, really gains importance, right? Now, what exactly is the problem? Beyond this stage, it is very, very difficult for organizations to defend the adversary. The reason is because they have got excellent foothold into the enterprise. What I mean by excellent foothold is it's not just 1 or 2 missions now. They are present in 50 to 100 missions. And beyond stage 8, if you're bringing in an organization to do incident response, by the time they do investigation and tell you what it is, they would have moved laterally multiple endpoints, right? So it is, as an organization for you, it is only till stage 8 where you have time to get visibility into what is going on. Beyond this, it's very, very difficult. What at CrowdStrike, what we are recommending to organizations is, you want to stay ahead, right? Please take a note, start writing down what processes, what technologies you have, and what skill sets you have. It could be SOC or it could be security skill sets that you have. Write them down and see if you put all of them to the best work today, would you be able to detect an adversary activity, forget about an attack, about an activity that is going on now in 1 minute? Would that 3 put together would be able to understand what that adversary is doing in about 10 minutes? Put all that together, would you as an organization be able to remediate from that adversary or attack in 60 minutes, right? Rule. This is not what we defined, but this is a framework that we recommend, and we want organizations to think about it, take a step back, and see if you have technology, people, and process today to be able to address today's advanced attacks if you want to stay ahead of the adversaries. What is CrowdStrike doing for this, right? At CrowdStrike, we have built a platform which is a combination of technology that you see on the top, right? And then analytics, which is built in our cloud, and a sensor that goes on to the endpoints. So basically, all this that I mentioned combined with people, right? Human expertise, all these work together to ensure that you get maximum protection at the endpoint. I think we had discussions around there is no perimeter today. Where is the perimeter? Endpoint is a perimeter. Every endpoint becomes a perimeter for the organization today. So it's very, very important that the IPSs or the web proxies or the next-gen firewalls or the firewalls that you have, are still there in the data center, but are the endpoints basically traversing through that? What is a change that COVID taught us, right? Now, what this means is every endpoint became a perimeter, and as organizations, as you all are cybersecurity experts in the organization, it is your responsibility to ensure that now the endpoint has all the controls that it needs to without depending on some of the network security controls that you might have, right? So at CrowdStrike, what we have done is we have kind of connected the technology piece, the process, which is the human, the process piece and the human expertise piece together, and we are giving it to you as one platform called the Falcon platform. All that you as a customer you would need is one agent that needs to be rolled out on the endpoint, which is very, very low in terms of footprint. We are talking about 1 to 2% of CPU, very less RAM consumption, no restart required. And this endpoint that gets rolled out pretty much supports any of the platform that we're talking about today, Windows, Mac, Linux, servers, workstations, be it any of your cloud repositories, right, in AWS, GCP, Azure, or even your private cloud. So this is what we have to offer. Considering time, I would not try to go into each of this, but Pradeep and I would be available post this session to be able to answer some of the questions that you might have, or we'll be happy to get in touch with you one-on-one and discuss in detail and present to you what the CrowdStrike platform is in detail. Before I move on to the next slide, there's one point that I wanted to clearly mention. There is something that you would find here called turnkey security. Now, that's the end-to-end endpoint security package that CrowdStrike offers today. And we offer this package, which is basically all of our CrowdStrike modules to our customer, backed by a warranty, a breach prevention warranty of up to 1 million USD. This is something we are offering. There are a lot of customers who have taken this in India, outside of India, but that's something we are proud to share with you. And what I mean by that package is the solution is delivered to you as a service. All that you need to do is buy the Falcon Complete license, and then you as a customer would be rolling out the sensors on the endpoints, policy configuration, policy fine-tuning, remediating, monitoring, everything is handled by the CrowdStrike team. And this is a very, very unique proposition that CrowdStrike has come up with, which is backed up by a breach prevention warranty of up to 1 million USD. Just wanted to share that. I think there was a discussion around that. One of the panelists brought up that very, very, a critical point at this stage we are talking about, right, with the pandemic in. So with that, I will pass it on to Vinu, and then post that we could have, or we could have discussion even now. If there is any questions, we'll be happy to share.
Yeah, thank you, Satish. Tasha, if you can just make me as a presenter. All right, I think I'm good to go. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, Vinu, please.
Yes, we know you're able to see.
All right. First of all, thank you so much. Thank you for to all the panelists taking the time and being part of this very interesting, very insightful session which we had. And we are happy to partner with CrowdStrike to bring this whole session. I don't have much slides. This is one slide I have to highlight about what is Cymune. Cymune is born out of Locus. I'm sure that's a brand which is been resonating in this market for last 2 decades. We have done phenomenal activities in terms of different technology pieces and several security transitions for our customers. And what we do primarily here in Cymune, Cymune is a certain partner, because that is very important for any customer to look engaging a partner into doing some of the services, because certain it requires some a level of standards and other certifications and all that, and we have that certification. And we help our customers to be more proactive, and that is very important. I think we all discussed that, the proactiveness and the importance of proactiveness, and it's more measurable, because we should able to measure our security programs rather than putting bits and pieces. We should have the collective measure, which should every organization should have. And for that, we put our best of tools, technologies, people, and process. That's a combination which we bring it to our customers as service, and the technology what we would have been using, like CrowdStrike, to handle several millions of incidents, and that's kind of experience and exposure our security experts has got. And I think the need of a SOC has been talked a lot, and we are having a global SOC for our customers to leverage, and it's becoming very relevant for us to suggest our customers to look at the SOC as a service. We will be able to provide as a service, or different forms we can help it, and provide the technology support, the consultation, advisories, and all those things. We will be able to provide it by Cymune, which is powered by Locus. So we are a service partner for our customers from a security, and why we formed Cymune as a separate company, that we want to invest our focus on cyber security. So Cymune is a combination of cyber immunity. So we felt that creating the immunity for our organization is very relevant, and we have this entity to support you. And I am available. Some of you need available to take the discussion forward and take it further on this. And my numbers are there on the screen. And anyway, I'll reach out to you separately post this to share more coordinates and discussions. Thank you, Satish. Back to you.
Thanks, Venu. And to all the panelists, any questions on CrowdStrike you want to discuss in this forum, Pradeep and I are available here. Pradeep is a technical expert. He's been in the system for about a year. We'll be happy to revert to any of the questions that you might have, or if not, we'll connect with you through Cymune and address any of the questions that you might have.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you, Venu. Thank you, gentlemen, for a very interactive and interesting panel discussion. A special thanks to Mr. Garg for summarizing the entire panel discussion and duly helping in answering the the relevant questions. Big thanks to our distinguished panelists too for sharing their experiences and giving us some truly valuable takeaways from this session. With this, we bring today's virtual roundtable conference to a close. Today's session wouldn't have been a success without the active participation of all our esteemed speakers, panelists, and delegates. I would like to thank each one of you for taking out time and being a part of this virtual roundtable conference today. A special thanks to Crowdstrike and Cymune for the support in this initiative, without whom this conference wouldn't have been possible. Thank you once again, gentlemen. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for organizing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.